Hello, today I'm going to talk about the basics of creating a new diet and editing a diet. So to get there from the Welcome switchboard, you're going to click on Edit Diet Plans. This looks a little complicated, but we'll walk through it. The first line up here is the name of the diet. This is just a free text field. You can type whatever you want here. It's fairly common to put the animal's name and ID number. Other things that people might put here is whether this is for breeding season or not breeding season or growth or lactation, something like that. If it's for more than one animal, you might say a group of 2 ducks or a group of 27 flamingos. You can put anything you want in the diet name. Under Target Taxa, you're going to select the name of your species. If you use ZIMS and you imported your collection from ZIMS, then this list will include all of your species names. If you did not import from ZIMS, then you will have to type out the species yourself. I'm going to ignore default prep by for just 1 second and talk about delivery location. This doesn't actually mean that you have to deliver the diets to this location. It is merely sort of what grouping this diet belongs in. So it might be the group for a particular barn. It might be diets that you deliver to a particular area. It might be diets prepared in a certain area. It might be diets that you put in a bin together or a bucket together. It might be diets you put on a shelf together. It's just the grouping of the prepared diets and who comes to pick them up or who uses them. Active means whether this diet is active or not. As a matter of best practice for data, these are your animal records. Just like if an animal dies, we don't delete the veterinary records. If an animal dies or leaves the institution, we don't delete its diet. We merely mark it as inactive and it won't show up on any reports. Below is the core of the food prep schedule. This is all the foods, the amounts. This is a diet for one animal, so the individual amount is the same as the total amount. The units, you can always select units of weight, so grams, kilograms, pounds, ounces. Those are always acceptable. If you want to use a custom unit like this banana, 1 each, meaning 1 banana, you have to define that for that food. So for banana, you have to define how much does 1 banana weigh. So for each food, you need to use a custom unit like bale or cup or scoop or each. You need to define how many grams it is for that food. To the right here are days of the week, so you can check which boxes for which days you want it to appear. Prep location. This, for most institutions, is going to be what you currently call a diet book. So this is a book with all of the foods that are prepared in a given location. If you have a centralized commissary, you might have multiple stations within a kitchen. If you do not have a centralized kitchen or commissary, and the food prep happens out in animal areas or animal barns, then there might be separate books for each barn. If you have a centralized commissary, it is very typical to have, say, meat items prepared on one table and vegetable items prepared on a separate table. And so those would have separate books. And you can do that here. So if you notice that all of these are prepared on a location called Veggie Prep, that means that there's probably a book called Veggie Prep Book. But the hay is prepared by the zookeepers, which may not exactly be a book. You could change, like maybe the dry goods gets prepared under the primate prep. So this way you can target different foods to where it makes the most sense to prepare them. I'm going to put this back to Veggie Prep. Bin describes how foods are grouped, and I'll show you what that looks like. So basically anything with the same numbers, such as numbers 1, these items will be put in a container together. Anything with another set of numbers, like all the ones with 2, these will be put in a container together. And anything with number 3 will be separate. So this allows you to keep, say, worms separate from salad so that your keepers don't have to chase worms through a salad to do their training session. It might allow you to keep wet foods separate from dry foods so that you don't make the dry foods soggy. or tell you to put the wet foods in with the dry foods because you like to soften up the pellets a little bit. So there's any number of reasons why you might want food prepared into separate containers. So that's what bin is for. Sort is just the order of foods listed on various reports. So if you always want Missouri Rhino Cube Diet to appear first in this list, you would give it the lowest number. So wherever you see these 3 items, Missouri will appear first, followed by apple, followed by banana, because it'll sort first by bin and then by sort. If you change the order of these, so let's say we want to call this bin 4 for some reason, or we want banana to come second and apple third. If you want to change this, you can click this little arrow and it'll resort. Now you see that these are still in bin 2 as they were. This is bin 3, and now these items have become bin 4, and you'll see that banana comes before apple. I'm going to put this back to bin 1 for now. For any line, you can have a line note. So for instance, this apple has instructions to cut it in half and no skin. Anything that applies to the diet as a whole, you can put down here in the prep notes, such as no avocados for this animal or something silly like add extra love. So I'll show you what this looks like when you actually print a diet card. So up here, you've got your list of reports. We'll talk about those later, but we're going to pick the diet plan and hit print. It's going to ask me for a reason. So anytime I finish making changes and go to do something else, such as printing a report, it's going to ask me to list a reason for changing the diet. In this case, I actually didn't really change it. I just rearranged things. So redid the sort order. But this will help future you understand the history of the diet changes. So here's the southern white rhino, Delton. He lives in the hoofstock barns. He's part of the Africa hoofstock group. This diet card is for one animal. And so you can see here, bin 1, bin 2, bin 3. Bin 1 has the rhino cube, the banana, the apple, has the days of the week, has the apple note, bin 2, and bin 3. Down here is the diet prep notes. You've got some recent history. And if I go far enough onto the next thing, the animals included in it list his name and his number. So you saw there that even though I just called these bin 1, 2, and 3, there was some extra information. You don't have to include any of that, but if you want to define what these containers are a little bit more, you can come down here to the bin setup and you can enter bin 1. Then you can pick something from a drop-down menu, such as a set of sizes used in your institution or containers used in your institution. And you can free type some notes or some text on here. So you can either label a container as being like training foods. You can give it for a specific animal. This goes to Fluffy. Whatever sort of description you want. This should be the large bag with the red stripe on it or something. You can put anything you want in the label and description, and that will help you define this a little more. So you notice that I redid the history. So I redid the sort order was what I just typed. You can see some other changes I've added over time here. So this allows you to see what you've done over time. If you want more details, you can click here for the full history, and you can go back in time and see what the different diets were at different points in the time and the reason that you changed them. This is useful. In addition to just having a history, this is useful because you can come in here and using these gray boxes on the left, you can select these foods and you can copy them and paste them into the current diet, into another animal's diet. So you can switch back and forth. If you switch between breeding season and not breeding season, you can go back to the previous history and copy that diet and paste it to reactivate an old diet. If you get a new animal in, you can copy and paste foods. So what that looks like is using these selector boxes to the left, I am dragging my mouse down them. You can also hold the shift key or the control key down to select different foods. When they're all selected, you're going to hit Control C for copy. You have to use Control C. If you use the mouse, it unselects them. So you hit Control C and you come back here, and I can choose to either delete these items or add these items. Just for this example, I'm going to add them, but you could also delete those. So I'm going to click here. If I'm somewhere else, it'll be a star. If I'm on it, it'll turn into that. You find the blank line at the bottom of any diet is where you add foods. And I'm going to hit Control V, which is paste. And it says you are about to paste 7 records. Are you sure? And I say yes. And you can see now I've got these additional 7 items pasted down here below. In this case, I didn't delete the original because I'm doing a demo, but obviously if you were trying to reactivate an old diet, you would delete the initial ones. I'm actually going to delete the selected ones that I just added. So I'm going to hit delete. It says you are about to delete 7 records. Are you sure? You can click yes. You'll notice that this amount is for one animal. If you come over here to animals and enclosures, you'll see that one animal, Delton, is listed. If we want to create a diet for 2 animals, and for rhinos, this would be unusual, but if you think of ducks or flamingos or something that you would often have living in a group who you would feed as a group, you can add another animal here. So let's go find another southern white rhino friend for our, let's see, we'll give him Miriam here. So now you'll see that this changes to 2 animals and enclosures. And if you come back over here, you'll see that the individual amount is this and the total amount is that. If you do this, it assumes that all of the animals on the diet are eating from the same set of food. So this is what you would do for an aviary or a herd or a flock, where you have multiple animals eating the same things, and you're assuming that they eat the same. This is not what you would do if you have a group of gorillas and each one has their own special diet weighed out separately for them. In that case, you would create separate diets for each gorilla. But for this example, we put 2 rhinos on here, and this means that the kitchen will prepare 2,800 grams of rhino cube, 2 bananas, 200 grams of apple, 1,000 grams of lettuce for this group. And the expectation generally is that the keepers would feed this to the group without further dividing it. You can quickly adjust the amount of the diet in a couple different ways. Obviously, you can just fix these numbers. If you want him to have 200 grams of apple, you can just type that and you'll see it's 200 and 400. But you can also do a 10% increase. You can get a preview of what that would look like here. So that would take the 1400 up to 1540. That would take the 200 to 220. So you could do a 10% increase or a 10% decrease. And this is the preview. Nothing has actually changed. You can either just use this as a calculator and type the number here, so 1260, or you can actually hit the magic wand and it'll copy all of this over onto this. I usually prefer to type the numbers over because, as you can see, you end up with weird things like 0.9 bananas, and I pretty much want 1. But if you actually wanted to accept these numbers, you could hit the magic wand. The other way you can adjust numbers is if you come back to animals and enclosure, you'll see that each of these animals has a unit of 1. So in this case, it just multiplies the total by 2. But let's say one of these animals, let's say Delton is actually a growing rhino and Miriam is his mom, then maybe he's only an animal unit of 0.5. So now you'll see that there's actually 1.5 animals in here, and these numbers are multiplied by 1.5. So there's a couple different ways you can use this and adjust the numbers. To navigate from diet to diet, you can use this navigate section up here. If you know the diet number, you can just type that in right here. So we're currently on diet 2. If I go to diet 30, this is a bird called Andean cock of the rock. and you can just type that number in and go right to that diet. So that's one of the faster ways if people are used to referring to that. If not, you can do a drop down where I can go look at Armand the armadillo, diet 38, just by scrolling to him. And then the final way I can do this is to click here and type, say, armadillo. And it'll search for the word armadillo in the species, the accession number, the house name, the diet name, or the group name. So if you have a barn called the Armadillo Barn and there's a sloth living in it, it'll find that because it'll say Armadillo Barn. So it'll find anything. So we can go, we have quite a few screaming hairy armadillos. So let's go see Toothless Bob down here. So Toothless Bob, the armadillo, gets Missouri insectivore gel. So those are multiple ways. If you have multiple parks, you can filter to just the park that you're at. And by default, you search all of the diets, whether or not they are active. But you could search the current diets only if you wanted to limit it to that. So let's walk through an example of creating a new diet. So I'm going to click on the New Diet button. You'll see everything is blanked out and looks a little weird until you type a name. So this is going to be, I don't know, a lion diet. Let's give it a name, Fluffy the Lion. And his number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to pick that he's an African lion. And it says we're delivering to the nocturnal house, but he probably lives in some sort of cat house. Let's see, what would he live in? Oh, there's a lion house in the sample database. We'll put him in that. You can see it defaults to veggie prep, and I'm pretty sure that we're not going to feed this lion a bunch of veggies. So that's what this is for, is the default. I'm going to change it to the meat prep. You might have to change this one, but after that, you'll see it defaults. So we're going to add, let's go for a rabbit. So you can see that we've got a variety of rabbits. We're going to pick a large rabbit. We're going to pick, what do we have in here? Let's see, a chicken. We'll do a chicken quarter. And we're going to send that frozen because the keepers thaw it on their own when they need it. And we're going to send some Toronto Zoo feline diet. So we're going to do one each rabbit. We're going to do one chicken quarter and 200 grams. I'm making this up. Don't feed your lion this. If you want this sent every day, you can click the little clock here and it'll toggle between all days and no days. So we'll do it all days. But maybe on Thursdays, he doesn't get that. And instead, on Thursdays, he gets a chicken and a rabbit. So that's one way that you could set up this diet. I'm fine if these all go in the same bin, but maybe if you want them all separate, you could do that. So we'll set that up. But if you want the Toronto feline to go into a separate bin, we can do that. And so let's look and see what the diet looks like. We're going to go for a diet plan. Please enter a reason. So we just created a new diet. And you can see Fluffy the lion, bin 1 has the rabbit and the chicken, and bin 2 has the Toronto 7 days a week, 1 day a week. The diet by default is active. If Fluffy leaves or dies, you just uncheck this and mark it as inactive. If I want to come over here, I want to add an African lion. Oh, oops. I guess I should have picked a lion that I actually had. We'll go for Joey, a male lion. So Joey, and let's call this cub diet. You know, maybe he's growing. And so one thing we could do is we could say that this is him for now, and then as he grows, we can just change these numbers, and that works. Or we could say that he is 0.2 animals now, and you can see that he'll get a lesser amount of these things. I don't know how you send 0.2 rabbits, but you could work on that. And then just as he grows, you could increase this number. So either one works. It just depends on what makes sense for you and your operation. You do not actually have to hit the save diet. It is always saved. But if you manually want to create a diet history note, you can put that here.